Welcome to the Dirty Verdict Podcast, where your hosts, trial lawyers Kyle Herbert and Bill Ogden, and mediator Peter Taaffe talk with interesting lawyers and break down recent legal news in detail. Here's Kyle, Bill, and Peter.
All right, welcome back to another edition of the Dirty Verdict Podcast. I am mediator Peter Taaffe.
And I am litigator Kyle Herbert.
And I'm a professional stretcher named Bill Ogden, who part-time law firm, Fair and Ball. I'm an attorney there.
Excellent.
We are excited to welcome our special guest, Jacob Karam, live from Friendswood, Texas. Jacob is a lawyer here in Houston and former professional football player.
Yes.
And we are super excited to have you, Jacob.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Be here.
So 2 weeks ago, we were supposed to have Jacob on, but he had to cancel last minute. And we were able to pinch hit with a real young up-and-comer named Benny Augusto Jr. And so, Jacob, at some point you should reach out to Benny, tell him that you're excited to know such important young up-and-coming lawyers. Maybe you could take him under your wing a little bit and maybe thank him for pinch hitting for you.
Honored to be mentioned in the same sense with Benny. Benny's a great friend and a great guy. So
Benny came off as like a pretty brilliant young kid, I thought.
Sure. He's trying. You know what? And sometimes that's the most you can say. He's trying hard, and I admire the heck out of that.
Yeah, kid's got moxie.
Also an athlete, played soccer, which
Hall of Fame,
which
Hall-
in
yeah, Hall
some
of Fame.
countries
Puerto Rican Hall of Fame
is also called football. So you guys are both football players, and you have that in common.
Practically,
Goalie. He was goalie. I was quarterback. So
Basically the same.
Shot caller.
yeah, there you go.
So where'd you grow up?
From Friendswood, Texas. Claim to fame as I grew up in the same hometown as Kyle Herbert.
That's right. They used to call it the house that Kyle built. Jacob was a all-star football player, and a lot of people don't know this, was the announcer for the football team for 2 years.
I'll give my best Herbert
we have that
play call. So it's like, Karam on the sweep brings up 2nd and 13. Is that about right?
Is that very, very close?
Was it only football?
On the sweep, that is very close. If I was running the ball, then that is extremely accurate. If I was throwing the ball, we were moving the chain.
There we go.
There
we go.
Was it only football?
I announced for
Say gymnastics.
several sports, but mostly football and the halftime shows and all that.
Wait. Several sports you announced. What other sports did you announce? Because baseball is kind of the only one that hasn't announced.
So the only one that had like an announcer and somebody there like actually doing like live commentary was football.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I did also announce for the dance team, ladies and gentlemen, now forming at the North End
Fighting band.
of Henry Winston Stadium, the Mighty Mustang Marching Band and the Friendswood Wranglerettes.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah.
You got the hair for it.
Well, and to be honest, I parlayed that into this very prestigious, podcast.
All groundwork being laid.
Pretty impressive. Jacob, what was it like growing up in Friendswood? Good experience?
Great experience. Really enjoyed it. Great people. Loved playing football there. Success. Lucky enough, we had some good football teams, and I loved it. It was great.
What'd you do after Friendswood?
So after Friendswood, I played football at Texas Tech. I got to play for Coach Leach and
R.I.P.
Yeah,
Senator Tuberville.
Coach Leach, Senator Tuberville, and then University of Memphis after that, and played the last 2 years there.
Tell us about getting recruited by Mike Leach, because I think we all universally agree one of our favorite. He's not a friend of the podcast because it wasn't around when he was live.
This Kyle.
But man, Leach, amazing coach. Maybe my favorite coach.
So it was interesting. So growing up in Friendswood, there was a kicker named Alex Trelica. You may never
100%, yeah.
And so people in Friendswood kind of rooted for Tech because of him. He was the kicker for Tech. And so right around that time I was coming up, Tech started winning. And remember, they weren't that good before he got there.
They were pretty mediocre for a long time.
Started winning 6 games, 7 games, 8 games. And they were throwing the ball, which is what we did at Friendswood. So I always felt like I'd be a really good fit there because Coach Leach was a lawyer. I was interested in, being a lawyer later on and throwing the ball. So getting recruited by him was a great experience. They didn't offer me. They weren't one of my first offers. And so they wanted me to go out to Lubbock to actually throw. They're one of the only programs, Pete, you probably know this, that they won't just look at your film and say, okay, we'll give you a scholarship as a quarterback. You have to come throw in front of Coach Leach. And he has to see if he likes you the way you throw and all this kind of stuff.
How'd that go?
And how you carry yourself. It was windy as anything.
So you're already in your head.
Oh, it's windy as anything you've ever seen, and it's dry out there, and I'm not used to that being, coming from humid Friendswood. But, you know, you get kind of in a rhythm. I ended up throwing at that camp to my future roommate who was a receiver, and had a great camp, and felt good and felt comfortable, and it was like, man, I really hope they offer me, and thankfully they did. So it was
Luckily, Mike Leach, very approachable person, in my opinion.
absolutely.
Really, he was?
Oh my God.
He comes off as not.
He loves talking to people, non-football people, non-administrative people. He
Nice.
loves it. So approachable. And there's a story they told at his funeral that there was somebody that accidentally called him one day, and he was sitting like in a meeting, and he was on the phone for like an hour. And so he finally got off the phone, and they said, "Coach, who was that?" He's like, "Man, they had the wrong number." But that just goes to show what kind of person he is. He was fascinated in people. He's fascinated in so many different subjects. You don't see that a lot in college football. So,
Sure.
So y'all would have a quarterback room,
yes.
and then would he partake in y'all's meetings?
I think he's one of the only guys in college football. He was the head coach, and he was also the quarterback's coach.
Oh.
And so it was funny. So Lincoln Riley recruited me. He was like the position coach that recruited me. And Sonny Cumbie, who played quarterback at Tech, was like the student coach there, and Coach Leach. So I was like, my goodness, he had Sonny Cumbie, Lincoln Riley, Mike Leach. And in our meeting room, it was the quarterbacks and it was Coach Leach. And so, you know, you spend hours and hours in those meetings talking about the upcoming opponent. What's Texas? What's their favorite blitz? What's OU going to do in this down and distance? But he believed in keeping things simple. He ran the same plays in different formations. And we talked about politics. We talked about the law. We talked about current events. He was so interesting to be around. Really.
So if, say you're in these meetings and you have a different view on policy.
Yeah.
Was he receptive to it?
He makes you transfer to Tulsa?
I was gonna say, yeah, like here.
No. He was super receptive. I mean, he'd argue with you and he'd tell you like, oh, what if this? Oh, you know, and he talked like this. So like, okay, so you're saying that if, so, you know, and explain that to me, you know. So he had this really distinct voice, and so he'd engage with you. He really would.
That's a great person. Now,
what we're gonna do is we're gonna go out there and we're gonna kick their ass in the second half, and that's what we're gonna do. And so he was, you know, people respected him.
I saw an interview with him one time where this was early on, and somebody said, you know, Coach, you do these big splits on your offensive line.
Yeah.
Where did you get that idea? And he said, you know, when you play chess, at some point, somebody back there was playing chess, and they moved the bishop and the knight out of the way, and then they just moved the king and the rook, and they said, that's the castle move. And that just happened, and people had to deal with it. And the person interviewing him goes, okay, so next question. Like, he's just a unique, amazing individual. So that's pretty cool that you got to do that.
Go ahead.
I never knew that story, but he based his offense based off of the Art of War. There's a famous book called The Art of War.
Yeah, he's got an interview about it.
The basic essence of it is we're going to attack where they are vulnerable. If there's 5 people in the box, we're going to run the ball. If there's 6 people in the box, we're going to throw the ball. If the safeties are down, we're going to throw it over their heads. If the safeties are backed up, we're going to throw it underneath. And it sounds so elementary. I mean, even if you're not a football player, it sounds like my beautiful wife, Donna, just got here.
Come on in. We can grab a chair.
And so
She's dressed like a Canadian, so she can have a chair.
she's Lebanese.
Hey, the Lebanese and Canadian, everybody loves denim.
I'll step out and facilitate that. Y'all keep talking.
And so that was the theory behind his offense. And he kept it simple, but it's hard to do that in college sports, to keep something simple, because everyone wants to, you know, do the next coolest thing and the next most complex thing. He never got bogged down by any of that. He knew what we were going to do, and that's what he did.
Which is funny, because when you watched the years that you were there, it was spread, throw the ball, and light it up, which a lot of, you know, you had like OU with Adrian Peterson. They were still on that offensive running down your throat. And now I think universally college football is kind of spread.
You're right. And they've really brought this to light now. You know, he passed away 6 months ago. That man has affected the game of football from high school to college to, believe it or not, the NFL. No one would have, 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I was playing, that no one ever thought that would happen, but it has. I mean, you see guys like Mahomes throwing the ball around the field, and it's based off of his offense. So he was an innovative mind for sure.
So it was hot take on Texas Tech football, but when Mahomes was drafted, the head coach, Cliff Kingsbury, was taken to the Arizona Cardinals. And in my head, I was thinking to myself, the Cardinals were like, hey, what's the name of that coach that had Pat Mahomes, the most dynamic player of all time, who was in the Big 12 when defenses didn't exist and still couldn't win. They're like Cliff Kingsbury, and the Cardinals were like, that's who we want as a head coach.
guy.
That's our guy. That's our guy.
And Baker Mayfield.
And Baker.
And Case Keenum.
And Case.
And you'll remember a guy named Johnny Manziel?
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel, Case Keenum.
The drug addict? No, I'm just kidding. I love Johnny Football. He's one of, in my opinion, greatest college football player of all time.
If you need an autograph, he's solid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's $5,000, but it's solid.
Listen, if you love Lebanese quarterbacks, you got to go Johnny Manziel and Jacob Karam. So I always tell people.
Oh, it's Johnny. I didn't know that last name was Lebanese.
He's Lebanese. Yeah,
There
he
you
comes
go.
from a big family in East Texas. So Johnny's a great guy. We worked out together in college. Once never seen a talent. I personally have never seen a talent like his. So he's incredible.
I like to think it was more Mike Evans, but
So before we get too far off of college football and family, Coach Leach told a great story about meeting your family and specifically your mom. Tell us about that.
So Coach Leach came to my home for our home visit, and we wanted to give him the, a typical night at our home, which was Lebanese food.
Oh, I love Lebanese food.
Yeah, it's the best. And my mom is the best. My wife, Donna, is the best too at cooking. So we had all this traditional Lebanese food, and we had lobster and steak. And it was, he gave an interview like 6 years after this happened. He was at Mississippi State. And, I was with Coach Leach for 6 months. He left a much bigger impact on me than I could have left on him.
Or so you thought.
So I thought. So he's giving this interview. I didn't even know he had said this. I hadn't spoke to him since he got fired by Tech. You move on. He's probably not super happy with Tech and vice versa. We everyone moves on. And so they asked him kind of questions like this. I said, and they asked him an interesting question. What's the best meal you've ever been served at a recruit's house? And so he said, there's been two. Quentin Griffin.
It's a great impression.
He goes, Quentin Griffin's mom made a great gumbo, and then Jacob Karam's house, they had steaks and all this food. So I'll never forget it. It was a lot of fun, and he liked to drink a little Lebanese Adik too.
All right.
Hold on.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
It's like
Kyle doesn't know.
orzo.
Oh,
Orzo. It's
so
similar to that.
So my mom is Greek,
There you go. Yeah.
and ouzo tastes like licorice flavored gasoline. Like it is like the devil in your mouth. You do not
Closest thing to Adik, right? Because orzo. Yeah.
Or aquavit, ouzo, and I guess Adik are all the same horrible witch's brew that you should not put in your mouth unless you actually.
You don't like it.
I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying I gotta drink a lot of something else to get to the point where I like it.
He means water. It's water.
A whole lot of what do the kids drink these days? Red Bulls and vodka.
Boone's Farm.
Yeah, or Mad Dog 2020. I'd rather
MDs.
drink Mad Dog.
He doesn't like that taste. Coach Leach loved it.
Really?
It's a great. No, dude, I love it.
Is it a licorice flavor?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was. And I was 17 at the time, but it's 12 o'clock, it's 1:30, it's 2 o'clock. He's still there and he's drinking this Adik, and we're having a great time. And then I'm like, man, I got school tomorrow and all this and all that. But it was, looking back, what a great, memory to have with them. So it was a lot of fun.
So from Tech, you find your way to Memphis.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So the head coach at Memphis, he was a first year coach there. Justin Fuente was the quarterback's coach and the offensive coordinator at TCU. To this day, I really don't know how he knew about me. I guess just being in Texas, but he called me up. He was a new head coach, and he said, "Hey, I know you're transferring. Come out to Memphis and let's build a program here." And they had won, I think, one game that year. The year before, not his. We had our first years together, but the year before they won one game. The year before they won 0 games. They were in really, really bad shape. And a few years ago, they had D'Angelo Williams, who was just a great runner.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's the best.
And Memphis is a huge sports city. And so it's like there's all this untapped potential there, and we just need to kind of get back on track. So, we won 4 games my first year, which is more than they'd won the previous 2 years combined. And now they're a great, respectable program. And I like to think that we kind of laid the foundation for that. So
You're like the Derrick Rose of football from Memphis.
D-Rose is the man in Memphis. I don't know if I'm mentioning the same sentence.
Not for
but he's-
football.
Yeah.
Jacob
Well,
Karam.
Kyle, do you have that? Kyle, do you have the stats?
Yeah, so 2012, Jacob Karam's junior year, 176 completions for a 65% completion percentage, almost 2,000 yards passing, 7 yards per attempt, 14 TDs to 3 interceptions.
Do you have any rushing TDs?
Yes.
Yeah, he did. It was long, but he gets on that grass. He just starts chopping feet.
That did not show up in the ESPN profile.
Take my word for it. I wouldn't lie to you, brother.
100%.
Did you leave after your junior year?
So I did not. My senior year, they brought in a guy named Paxton Lynch, who was a super stellar talent. And
well, at the time, he was a great college football talent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how that related to the NFL.
Coach gave him the nod. It was tough. It was really, really tough on me, but everything happens for a reason.
He's the one that's like 6'9", right?
He's a big guy.
Yeah, he's super talented.
Super talent. Yeah, no question.
What was your playing weight?
205, 209,
6'5", 209?
6 foot.
I'm practically that right now.
Bill, what
I'm wearing lifts. I'm 6'3", 205, but I'm wearing lifts right now, so I'm like 6'4.5".
All right, so I'm like 5'10", 215, but that includes the afro.
Yeah, it's a lot of hair. It's hair weight.
It's a lot of it is hair weight.
Hair weight.
Pete?
6 foot.
Pete, what's your 40 right now?
40 yards.
Yeah, 40-yard dash.
Or 5'2".
You think you pull 5'2"? Yeah, that's quick.
He got it.
So we're going like 6'1", probably 170 pounds on you, Pete.
You want for this?
Abercrombie.
Yeah, don't you go? You go down when you're older, right? Usually, you pad your stats going upward.
I'm on.
You would think that, but Benzema, a lot of people don't know this. He's a great soccer player, was at Real Madrid, just signed a contract. He's 35. Signed a contract with the Saudis for 3 years, $620 million. So he's making about $210 million a year.
So here's the thing: is our budget here at the Dirty Verdict is lower than that. But
Thanks to Pete.
But the other thing is we've got Pete. We've got him on Ozempic. We've got him on a bunch of free testosterone and like 17 grams of Adderall every 45 minutes.
We're gonna beat this diabetes.
He is on the way. He's trending weight mean. That's I don't know how to really explain it, but it's a lot of anger-based athletic ability.
Ladies, if you want to see Pete without the shirt on, with the collared sleeveless shirt, see the guns, just drop them in the comments.
What do we say? Like, Pete, can we get a butt? Can we get another? Can we get a butt?
We'll see. We'll see how things go.
You want to see some of that cheeseburger?
It is getting a little.
Play your cards right, man.
Look, we've got to be cool though. Like if he knows we want it, he's not gonna. You got to be cool.
Yeah.
All right. So Memphis to a short stint in the NFL. Tell us about that. What was that like?
So after the draft, what they do is they have rookie mini camp and they invite some of the undrafted guys to come and try out for the team. The Green Bay Packers were having issues at that time with their quarterback situation. They had a guy named Aaron Rodgers who had just won like a Super Bowl and was, trying to figure it out. But
on his way to ayahuasca. Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly where he was. I remember that.
He was going to get in the tent and bang the drum and talk about his dad.
They invited me out, and I did my best. I put my best foot forward. They ended up choosing Aaron Rodgers instead of me.
Foolish.
Yeah,
huge
foolish.
mistake.
But
and where is he now? He's not a Green Bay, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's a Jet.
What was he a little more mainstream back then?
No.
So he still was pretty quirky. That wasn't reported.
Let me tell you, Rodgers, one of the smartest guys you've ever met in your life. Extremely intelligent.
Did you get to know him well?
No, not super well, but just interacting him and hearing from I was with the offensive coordinator Tom Clement and the quarterback coach Alex Van Pelt, and we'd watch his film and how he processed stuff pre-snap and how he'd and what you also hear is just kind of how he leads the team. I think he's people talk about Peyton Manning. I'm just being so cerebral. I don't think people really give him enough of credit on how smart he is, really.
So what I'm getting from this is that the Green Bay Packers are racist against the Lebanese people. That's what I'm getting out of this.
I don't see any Lebanese people on their roster.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, they didn't draft Johnny Manziel, who's my other favorite Lebanese quarterback.
But I thought, to be fair,
didn't he play for them for a while? Didn't Manziel play for Green Bay?
He was drafted by the Browns, and
yeah, I think he did work out with them for a little while.
I don't think he went to another team.
Canada.
No, in the NFL, though. Did he go to anywhere else? I don't think he did.
Maybe.
I need to text him and ask him.
Well,
you have his number? Oh, he's got.
To be fair, it's Pride Week, and a lot of these teams have an aggressive anti-Lebanese agenda, and that's just reality.
Stop.
Yeah,
needs to stop.
It's got to stop. I don't know what we can do to stop it, but here on the Dirty Verdict, we won't put up with that.
All right, let's go. Let's kind of re-steer things since this is kind of a legal-focused podcast. So, ish. But we've devoted a good amount of time. Jacob, as we've talked offline, has a lot of things we could probably devote an hour plus to. We haven't even talked about the piano playing. Piano player.
This guy, 6'5", 205 playing weight, runs a 4.4
on a four-wheeler.
Yeah.
And plays an instrument and he's a lawyer. I don't like it.
How's his piano playing?
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Wife says phenomenal, and she probably hates him because he's so perfect.
She's biased. Look at the contempt in her eyes.
That's my third baby she's carrying in there.
What?
Oh, really?
Congratulations.
He's a great dad. Jesus Christ. He's got to have flaws. Where are the skeletons?
He's got a serious heroin problem. We didn't want to talk about it.
But we're going to now.
Yeah, but let's turn to law. So
What sent you to law school?
yeah, so,
Good question.
What sent you to law school?
Came from a family of lawyers, was always interested in just being in the courtroom. I thought that was interesting, and then after football, wanted to kind of do something that was similar in terms of, hard work and the preparation and kind of the game day of going to trial. It's competing and helping people. That's what kind of drew me to it. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do.
So your dad was a PI lawyer?
Dad was a PI lawyer in Friendswood, and told, we come from a big family, 5 kids, and I'm the oldest of 5, and told us all that he was encouraging us all to go to law school, even if we never practiced law. So 4 out of 5 ended up going. My little sister's the only one, and she's extremely talented and creative in her own way. But my little brother's a 1L, and the rest of us are attorneys. So
Nice.
Yeah.
and your mother was not a lawyer, but she had a family
yes,
relationship.
her father was a very famous criminal defense lawyer from El Paso, Lee Shagra, who, if you're an old timer, you know that name. That's
So I remember Dick DeGuerin on his podcast during COVID talked about Lee Shagra.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the only, and that was the first time I'd been exposed to the name.
So he was murdered the day my grandfather was murdered, the 2 days before Christmas in 1978, and it was a huge story and scandal, and thousands of people came to his funeral, and former clients and people and politicians, and so was only 40 years old, left a huge impact.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Left behind 5 kids, and to this day they still talk about him in El Paso. It's really crazy. So
Wow.
so yeah, come from a family of lawyers.
So you decide NFL's not for you.
Correct.
You chose that.
You
were
chose
like,
that.
No CTE for me.
And then you end up at U of H Law School.
Yes.
How'd you make that choice?
So I was interested in being a football coach. Still, kind of. I was interested in saying, hey, would this be a fun career path? And I thought I could be like a Cliff Kingsbury, kind of the younger, offensive minded, former quarterback, and be able to relate to these young kids and recruit. And I thought that'd be fun. So at U of H at that time, Tony Levine was the head football coach who had recruited me to U of H when I was in high school. And so I knew he'd, maybe be open to let me be a student coach and go to law school at the same time. And then, did that for one semester and realized I just needed to focus on law school. So it was just too much. I'm trying to do both.
It's difficult to really do anything but law school
It is.
when you're doing law school.
Yeah. To do well, and I want to try to do well. So
And so U of H, what year did you get out?
2017. We had a great board of regents at that time.
Yeah. I was going to say Tony was the coach when I came on the board of regents, and so got to know him.
He was the
head football coach at the time. Tony Levine, yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, I agree. Great guy. Now he's a Chick-fil-A.
He owns I think he owns 2 Chick-fil-A's. I was visiting with him a few months ago, checking with. He owns a few Chick-fil-A's in the Sugarland area.
Yeah.
Great guy. Really great guy.
Science.
Thank you, and thank you, Pete, for all of your help on the board of regents and your leadership.
Oh yeah.
Of H.
Sure. Yeah, it was good. Kelvin Sampson came on when I was there. Great coach.
Built a beautiful new law school. I got to go visit a few weeks ago. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So
I commend it for anyone interested in checking it out.
Yeah.
U of H Law School.
I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
I did. They just offered me more money at South Texas.
That's
good choice. Good choice.
no doubt.
We'll see.
So tell us about your practice now.
Well, no. You got to stop. After law school, where was your first stop? Because he had some good stops along the way.
So go back to Tech. So there was a guy everyone knew about from Texas Tech named Mark Lanier, who, I'd come from Texas Tech, and I was good friends with our chancellor, Ken Hance.
Heard he's okay.
Yeah. So
What's his name again?
Mark Lanier. It's IER.
Is it
the end.
Mark with a K or Mark with a C?
K? It's K. I'm pretty sure it's K.
We'll go
look him up. He's had some
for everybody at
success.
home. We'll Google him later. We'll post a link so you can track.
If you don't know who he is, he had 3 years ago, he had a $1.7 billion verdict in a hip case in Dallas, and that wasn't in his top fucking 5.
I got to work on that case, actually.
Good.
Not work on it. I got to watch a focus group with Lisa Blue and everybody.
Yeah.
It was a really cool deal. So, I knew I wanted to be a kind of a plaintiff's lawyer. That's what my dad did. And so Mark Lanier was Texas Tech. I was like, this would be great, go for a Texas Tech guy. So I asked the chancellor to help me kind of introduce myself to Mark, and got to work there my first year, my first summer, kind of after 1L year. And they called me in afterwards and said, we really like you, but we don't really hire first just lawyers out of law school. We don't. You need to go get some big law experience. I didn't even know what that was. Like big law, never heard of that.
I still don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I think it just means a firm with a long name.
There you go. Yeah.
Lots of more names on the wall.
And so I ended up clerking for Lock Lord and Andrews Kurth, and really liked the people at Lock Lord and worked.
Fucking nerd.
Yeah. I was like, this is a little different than the Lanier Law Firm.
I'm just kidding. I love it. Jesus Garcia was a partner there. I love
Jesus is the man.
Yeah.
Let me say this about Jesus. I ended up working at Lock Lord. Jesus didn't know me from Adam. Somehow got my emailed me my first week of working at Lock Lord, just out of law school, and said, hey, I want to take you to lunch. And so I'll never forget that, man. I was a new lawyer at Lock Lord. He knew that I was probably trying to figure out the ropes, took me to lunch, introduced himself.
Super nice guy. Don't love him to death. Great guy. I don't know. So it's weird. So for people that don't know, Jesus is a partner at Kirk Garcia.
Yeah.
Now, it was a plaintiff's firm.
Yeah.
But stayed at Lock Lord all the way to make partner and then left. I was like, who puts in the time to make partner finally? And then it's like, I'm going to go be a plaintiff's lawyer. I have mad respect for that.
I think he was taking some plaintiffs' cases at Lock Lord. They told me. That's what I think. I think they had said something like that. But anyways, yeah, he started off at Lock Lord, got to meet him. Wasn't there long. Was still kind of interested in being a plaintiff's lawyer.
Sure.
So the next stop was Arnold and Nitkin. So Ryan McLeod, y'all know Ryan.
I was speaking of Jesus Garcia.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan's like my big brother. So Ryan called me up one day when I was sitting in my office and said, hey, is this something you'd be interested in doing? And obviously had heard of Arnold and Nitkin, knew who they were, and just really jumped on the opportunity. So that's how I ended up at A&I.
There you go. How long were you there?
I was at Lock Lord after law school for about 8 months, and then switched to Arnold and Nitkin, and I was there for a little under 2 years.
Okay.
At A&I.
What'd you do after A&I?
I started my own firm.
Which is where you're at.
Which is where I'm at now. Yeah, that's right.
Tell us about A&I.
I think
Pandora's box. Not a lot of people know about it.
Yeah, it's just an incredibly aggressive trial firm. They really encourage you to take depositions as a young lawyer, to go try cases, to go to like MSJ hearings, like get real meaningful experience.
On big cases.
On big catastrophic cases. And that's what, I took that for granted because I was a young lawyer and I didn't really have any, but talking to friends, talking to other people that were in my same situation and same year, I was doing things that, no one else was doing.
Yeah, they're all making notebooks.
Correct. And doing research and doing all this kind of stuff. And so, you get to AI and it is like drinking water out of 3 fire hoses, but you learn. I mean, I got to go watch Jason Idkin try a case. My first 2 weeks being there, got to take like maybe 50 or 100 depositions my first year, and work on big cases and learn from some of the best. I mean, I think Kurt and Jason are, we all know they're
I don't think anybody's gonna argue with you.
Yeah, they're just masterful at it. And Kurt's kind of like the super hyper organized, like incredibly, leadership organization, and a brilliant trial lawyer. And Jason's like the mad scientist, man. He thinks of things that are just on another level. And he just hit like an $800 million verdict up in Dallas on a Dallas crane collapse case. So
yeah, we talked about it last.
Did you?
Last
Yeah,
time we talked. Yeah, which is funny because like he hit that, but like 4 weeks before that, Kyle Finley hit
largest. Yeah,
I was like, you guys just racking up 9-figure verdicts like they're fucking nothing.
Yeah. So those guys are incredibly talented. I'm always going to be extremely grateful to them for the opportunity I got to have and really learn at a young age, so that I could start my own firm.
So yeah, what was the calculus when you're deciding you want to go open your own firm?
We started growing our family, and one of the things that you do at Arnold Nitkin is you travel a lot. And I'm not talking to Galveston or Sugar Land or even Dallas, like California, Mexico, Florida, New York, like every week, Oklahoma, and so you're a young lawyer, you're not married, you don't have any kids. I think it's a really good experience, but family's always first to me.
Sure.
And so it got to be to a point where I couldn't really give to Arnold Nitkin what they needed of me and still be the dad and husband I wanted to be. And so that was just it. And we were moving to Sugar Land, and the commute back and forth was a lot. And I think they understood that. So
when you choose, and I think this is a great topic for young lawyers.
Yeah.
So when you are at a firm, you feel like you've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I'm going to start my own shop.
Yeah.
How scary is that to realize like it's on me now? I got to bring in the business.
Yeah.
I've got, payroll and taxes and staff and rent. Like
running a business.
What's that like jumping over? Because one thing they don't teach you in law school is how to run a business.
How to make money.
We're terrible at it.
Yeah. It is, but I think that, I was lucky. I had to, ask my dad a lot of questions and ask other people questions. And you meet people, I wish I would have known Kyle at that time because he has opened up his own firm and you know what that's like.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of hate. I wish I would have known you back in 2020. You should have reached out to your Friendswood, earlier.
Well,
he was still being selfish back then.
Was it 2020?
I opened, so I left Arnold Litkin in January 2020.
Thinking worst case scenario.
What's funny? I think it was best case scenario.
Really?
Let me tell you why. Everything slowed down.
Yeah. So I guess you got to.
I negotiated a good lease because
nobody was negotiating.
I got a good Westlaw deal. I got a good, and so to me, although I didn't realize this at the time, business was super slow. Cases were, I signed up a case a month. I was like, oh man, this is great. But, you realize just how slow everything was looking back at it now.
Right.
But it was a good time because I kind of just got to take my time, do step by step. And, but, it was a challenge for sure. But, what it is tough. You got to be a self-starter. You wake up every day and it's like, all right, it's on me. But
nobody there to motivate you.
Yeah,
and no pressure. It's on you.
That's right. But I love that. I think as being a former quarterback and all that kind of stuff, I think that was just my personality maybe. And so I enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed it so far.
So when did you have kind of a book of business that you're bringing home, or did you just say I'm going out on my own and just day one just
Yeah. I just went out on my own. Yeah, I didn't have any cases from anybody else. My dad was still kind of doing personal injury a little bit. So he would get calls and he would say, hey, look, my son's opening up his own firm now. So call him. You know what I'm saying? And that was great. And then, you know what? You meet that one's cousin. Then you meet this one's uncle. Then I opened up in Sugar Land and I opened up I had a marketing company and they did Google for me. And then you meet people and you just, it's what we all do. You should work, you meet, you get out.
So I got a question. It might sound silly, but like everybody in Friendswood knows you. A bunch of people in Lubbock know you. You opened your office not in Houston, not in Friendswood, not in Lubbock, but in Sugar Land, Texas. Mm-hmm. Why did you make that choice?
That girl right there.
Oh.
And now we see why.
Yes, that's right.
It's obvious. Right. With all due respect.
You made the right choice.
No question. Close to home, close to my community. I believe, and what we're trying to do at my firm is we're going to be a Fort Bend County firm. I'm licensed in Louisiana. I've had cases in Louisiana. I just tried a case up in Fort Worth, so I'm not scared to go take a case anywhere. But that's going to be our community, and it's Scott West is awesome. He's down there.
We've talked about Scott. I love Scott. One of my favorite people of all time, and I don't know him that well.
Yeah,
but I've met him at a few AIEG conferences, and I've got to hang out with him. And phenomenal trial lawyer.
Phenomenal.
I watched a lot of his trial with his daughter that he did, and I'm very impressed with Scott West.
Maddie and I went to law school. His daughter and I went to law school together, and then when I was at A&I, any big Fort Bend case we'd have, he'd be our local counsel. All the judges.
He runs that.
Of course. So he's been helpful to me in just little, any issue that come up, he's right there. There's a guy in my building named Carlos Leon, who y'all probably know. He's in my building.
Former football player.
I'm sorry?
Former football player at U of H.
Football player at U of H, yeah. He was recruited by Tony Fitzpatrick, who's a friend from back in Friendswood. But anyways, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to kind of bloom where we were planted, be there in Sugar Land and get cases there.
So you and I reconnected here recently, and when we were hanging out, you were telling me about a big case you had coming up in Tarrant County, which is Fort Worth.
Which is other than Montgomery County, probably close second. And I don't want to go there.
That's what people say.
Yeah, so people say. I would preface this with, when you and I talked about it, I said, you were telling me all the great facts about this case, and I said, that sounds great, Jacob. Tell me what your venue is, and you said, Fort Worth, Tarrant County. And I said, maybe you should just settle that case.
I wanted to settle.
But so in the intervening, 6-8 months, tell us what happened. You've tried this case.
Yes.
And so we want to know what happened.
Tell us about the case first and then how it's tried.
I represented a woman that was from Jonesville, Louisiana, that was visiting her family over 4th of July weekend, family get together. We all know how that is. It's a lot of planning, a lot of excitement. So she's meeting up with her family in Mansfield, which is a suburb in Tarrant County. And they decide to go have dinner at Texas Roadhouse. And so busy night, they're sitting there in the booth there's like a couple different booths. It's kind of a weird deal that happened to her. So a host lifted up a chair over my client's head to let somebody kind of pass through or whatever, inadvertently hits the ceiling fan that was over my client's head, causing the ceiling fan blade to break and hit her right in this neck and shoulder area.
Ooh.
Now, it's funny. Some people I tell that story to right away and I always look at their reaction and they either say, okay, like, how did that hurt her? And some people are like you and's like, ooh. The jury, when I told them about this, they had that reaction. They acknowledged that would be a painful situation. In voir dire, I asked the panel if anyone had ever installed a fan before. And I wanted them to kind of talk about, I was hoping to see if somebody would say, yeah, they're heavy. They can be dangerous. They are, they can be painful if they were to hit you. And some people on my panel were like, oh man, a fan blade hit me one time. It gushed my open. I was bruised, this and that. So those are the facts. That's what happened. She reports to the restaurant right away that she's in 10 out of 10 pain. We've all had cases where it's like, well, I'm fine. And then 3 weeks later, they send them a letter saying, oh, I have a lawyer now. And she
can't, I'm paralyzed.
Exactly. That was not her. The thing that in a lot of ways, to jump to the, to the heart of the matter, I represent an extremely genuine woman who was really injured. I mean, she was extremely genuine, extremely sweet. And she told them right away, like, I'm in 10 out of 10 pain in my neck and in my shoulder. Right. So witness statement out. Goes to the hospital that night. It's not what she wanted to do on a family reunion.
Right.
As we all, can expect.
Depends on your family.
Yeah, Kyle's still, he's chasing tail at his family reunion.
Settle down. Settle down. I've met Pete's family. They seem like nice people. Bill, I'm not sure.
Very nice.
They're not. They're loud. I wouldn't say nice. Friendly sometimes.
Yeah, so super sweet family. So she goes to the hospital that night. No bruising, no broken bones, nothing like that. Just contusions and high pain levels. Goes back to Louisiana, starts her physical therapy about 2 weeks later. And nothing really gives her lasting relief after 2 months. Then she goes to a pain management clinic. She gets an injection and like a medial branch block. No lasting relief. Finally, she sees a neurosurgeon and is like, you need a 3-level fusion, cervical fusion.
Wow.
Yeah. And so she ends up having the surgery.
How old?
51 years old.
Okay.
And it helps. She has the surgery. After 3 months, she's released, and the surgery was successful. Also has an arthroscopic surgery in her shoulder that was also helpful, but the fusion was the big thing. Texas Roadhouse, just cannot believe that this fusion surgery and these surgeries were caused by this fan blade. They argued that this was pre-existing and this and that. The interesting thing is that she had no prior shoulder complaints. And one prior neck complaint from like 2013 where she fell down a flight of stairs and had a back surgery, but just like one prior neck complaint. And so that was, they stood up in trial and they said, listen, we take full liability. And so
who defended?
It was Christy Hext was the defense lawyer. She's got her own firm here in town.
Yeah.
And so they challenged causation and damages. They challenged that the surgeries were medically necessary as a result of this incident. And they hired these two doctors to get up
Fort Worth
from Houston, from San Antonio, actually.
Okay.
Both were they. Dr. Anton Jorgensen was the orthopedic spine surgeon, and Dr. Travis Burns was the shoulder surgeon.
Everybody knows Burns is.
I think he's well known, right?
I would consider him what we would call a defense whore. But yeah,
they sent us his list. He testified for the defense in every single case since 2015 or 16 or something. So long story short, and I think this was a big deal in the case, is that they never examined my client, looked at her medical record.
Didn't even request an IME.
Didn't request
an independent medical examination.
Never did. And the thing that I thought that was interesting was before they wrote their expert report saying, hey, here are my opinions. We think that some of this therapy was necessary. Maybe these injections, they didn't think the injections were necessary, but these surgeries were not necessary and they were unreasonable. And there was no injury. There was no traumatic injury. They made those opinions before they looked at my client's MRI images.
Oh, that's good.
And so
good fact,
because I asked them, I said, hold on, you have your own practice in San Antonio. You treat patients. You get patients from referrals from pain management doctors and chiropractors, and you treat your own patients. Would you ever recommend or not recommend a surgery before looking at their MRI images if it was your own patient? And they said no. No. But they answered it.
Oh, it honestly answered?
They said,
good for you.
And so
they did a deposition as well.
In a deposition, yes.
So the defense knew it was coming.
They knew it was, and they testified in trial by video. So the jury never got to. One of the things I told the jury is, you have something in common with these. My client has something in common with you. They've both never met this doctor that's your testifying.
That's a great line.
I said that. I said no one here has ever. And I said they gave these opinions before they even looked at her MRI images. That'd be like me asking you to give us a verdict after voir dire, after I gave you any of the evidence. And so to me, that was what I had to focus on in the case, because, you know, you try to find ways to frame your case and to position it in front of the jury so they can see what's kind of going on here. Texas Roadhouse didn't comp my family's meal. They comped my client's $12.99 chicken dinner. That, you know,
which was tasty.
She wasn't even able to eat it. She was in too much pain. And so those are kind of some of the highlights of the trial.
So what was the verdict?
So I asked the jury for $5 million, and I told them, listen, this is the bill that my client's going to have to live with for the rest of their life. When you go to Texas Roadhouse and you order the steak and the mashed potatoes and the broccoli and the margarita, they bring you the full bill. This is the full bill for what my client's going to go through for the rest of her life.
I like it.
Don't leave her with the bill.
How many days did you take to try it?
3 days.
And did you use a jury consultant?
Yes.
Who? I always want to know who everybody uses.
It was Jen Lipinski from Robert Hirschhorn's office.
Okay. I like Hirschhorn.
Hirschhorn is the guy we used at Arnold and Nitkin. He's a great mentor to me. He's just the best. I mean, he's wonderful. So, but the verdict was $3.15 million.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you said you tried it because you couldn't settle it.
That's right.
Were there any offers? Tell us about how the case was positioned pre-trial.
We tried to settle the case. They couldn't even get close to like half my clients' past meds. So it was.
And what were the past? What did the jury award on past meds?
The jury awarded 200 in past meds.
Got it.
Is that the full freight? Is that what they were?
Yes, close.
Because I always wonder, the lawyer-driven medical arguments are starting to get popular. So
the judge let all that stuff come in. LOPs came in.
Really?
Attorney referrals came in. Everything came in. All of that stuff. And so
the jury just didn't care?
I don't know if they didn't care or they did care, but I just, I think that they saw that the client was genuine and was genuinely hurt. And I think that the defense tried to make a big deal out of all that stuff. And they even said in closing arguments, I wish they'd have gone and see our doctors. And I was like, are you kidding? That's so, and I talked to him a little bit afterwards. I don't, here's what I'll say. I was worried about that. I think
we all are.
We all are. And that's something I do want to say. I think we worry about that too much.
I think we do, but at the same time, like if it's done, it depends on the client.
It depends on the client. But when you have a good client, a genuine client who you're proud of, I don't think it matters. I really don't.
Was the care all done in Louisiana?
Yes, sir.
Surgeries?
Yeah, 30 minutes from our home.
And that was, but it was all LOP?
Yes.
Because that's actually pretty low for 3-level fusion.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So there's, when you're using consultants to pick juries, you have a liability jury and then you have a money jury.
That's right.
Which one did you go with?
We had a damages jury.
Okay.
We really focused on a damages jury.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they, believe it or not, they
did they try to stipulate something?
They stipulated to liability.
Did you accept it?
The judge didn't really even give me a chance. Really.
When did they do that?
They do.
In theory?
And that was never really a thing. And I submitted a proposed jury charge just in having the liability question. But I'll say this, just the way that rulings were coming, I had to pick my battles and just kind of decided to roll with it.
Well, with Terrence, you got to just duck.
When did they finally stipulate?
They stipulated from the beginning, really. Even the beginning of the case, they said, listen, we're stipulating the liability. What are they going to say? I mean, my kid is sitting there. But what I said was, you can't take full liability without accepting full responsibility. And so they were saying that they were liable, but they didn't want to take full responsibility for her injuries. They wanted to pay half the bill. And so that was a big theme in my case. Is like, they bring you after a restaurant, you don't get to say, okay, I'll pay for this and this and this, but I'm not going to cover all this stuff. Or the vase example, like you break it, you buy it, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I harped on to still kind of get that liability responsibility through.
Did you try it by yourself?
Yes.
Nice. Did you use trial tech or?
It's a funny story. So from Arnold and Nitkin, my trial tech was a guy named Cody, and just a great guy, and he's with Windy Point Technologies.
Okay.
And so Cody had just got done trying Kyle Finley's $500 million verdict, Jason's $800 million.
Come over to this Texas Roadhouse case.
And so I called him 3 days before. We got called to trial on Friday. We were like number 9 on the docket. We got called to trial.
To start on Monday.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
I'm in Sugar Land, Texas.
Experts are everywhere.
Correct. So hustled, got down to Fort Worth that next day. Got up to Fort Worth the next day, and called Cody, and he came up to Tarrant County with me. And so after the verdict came out, man, I'm emotional. This is my first verdict. I'm like on my own firm, He goes, man, like left some money on the table. I'm like, dude, are you crazy? Like, he goes, fuck off. I was like, dude, he goes, man, I'm just telling you, Jason would have asked for this and Kyle would have asked for brother.
Like,
yeah,
they would have.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe have gotten it.
Yeah. Cody Hall, he gets to be with the best all day long. But that was he was teasing me, obviously, because he's like, man, you're bringing down my average, brother. I had 800 million, 500 million.
This
is barely a 7.
Let's repeat that for anyone who wants to know. Cody Hall with
Cody
Windy.
Hall at Windy Point Technologies. I think he's the best in the business. So
Cody, we are always looking for sponsors for the Dirty Verdict.
Yeah, pay us money.
You can track us down. We're easy to find.
Cody will look you in the face and tell you that he is very disappointed with your $3 million verdict.
Kyle, I don't know if you've spoken to your dad recently, but we're both disappointed in you.
Yeah.
So you had 200,000 in meds. You have any futures?
had about 250 in futures.
Yeah, so you only had 450 in actual, so you're going to rack up 3 points.
I asked the jury for 400 in past meds. They ended up awarding a little bit more in future meds than what I was asking for.
Really?
Yeah, they awarded 400,000, and I think it was because one of the doctors said that we knew she was going to need an adjacent level surgery, but he said one of their own doctors said she may need another one.
Right, she's 51.
Correct.
Sure.
And so they awarded 600 in past and futures total. The rest, 2.55 was non-economic damages.
Good for you.
In Tarrant County, yeah, absolutely. So that was an accomplishment.
What was your guessing? Because I hate the worst part about our job is waiting for that jury verdict.
Man,
it's the most stressful time I've ever. I hate it. People can talk to me, and it's as if I've taken crack or some of Kyle's Mexican heroin, because I am not the person you want to talk to. I make everybody very uncomfortable. So, as you're sitting there waiting, how long did they deliberate?
About an hour and a half.
Oh shit! Okay, that's fast.
Unanimous verdict. Unanimous hour and a half verdict.
You should have pled gross.
Yeah, if it's an hour and a half liability fine,
you should. That's gross.
What so
you live and you learn.
If you had known before that you were such a good lawyer, you would have pled gross. But next time.
I've had that happen once before, where a jury gave me way more than I even asked for, and I was like, "Hey, you're a great lawyer, but you suck at valuing your cases."
Yeah.
And it sounds
they gave us more in medicals, but they didn't give us as much as we were asking for in the non-economics, which is, we were thrilled.
Yeah. It sounds like based on the rulings that maybe the judge wouldn't have let gross go to the jury.
I seriously doubt that would have happened.
I got a question. So the mechanism of injury.
Yes.
What did the doctors say about how the blade could cause the need for 3-level cervical fusion?
So blunt force trauma. So when you have let's talk about our favorite subject in law school, the eggshell plaintiff. So this woman is 51 years old. She's brittle. And I told the jury, I was like, listen, and one of the doctors, I asked him if he was a Cowboys fan because we were in Dallas. He goes, no, I like the Redskins. I was like, oh, no, don't tell a Dallas jury that. Yeah, exactly. Don't tell a Dallas jury that. So, or I guess a Commanders jury now, or fan now. But
PC too. Jesus, you gotta have flaws. Come on.
No, so the thing that we focused on in closing was the new pattern jury charge 28.8C, which says that the asymptomatic condition that becomes symptomatic because of a traumatic event is recoverable, right? And so that's what we focused on, is that, hey, blunt force trauma, and her orthopedic surgeon, her neurosurgeon testified, the blunt force trauma from the blade hitting her can cause these herniated discs, which probably, some of them were pre-existing, of course, right?
Sure.
We all have pre-existing. We all live and breathe and
not me.
Yeah. Except for you, Bill. I feel you play golf. You don't look like you have any pre-existing condition.
Not at all.
Usually when I see things hit that hard and that fast, they have a flight attendant.
Thank you. Finally, I feel seen. Finally.
Okay, so what's the PJC site for
28.8C?
Okay.
Correct, sir.
And that is usually under is it under the damages side, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's in the PJC. I think it's 1 or 2 years old.
Yeah, I think it's last year. Last year it came out. Yeah.
So we asked the judge to include that. She did. They wanted to include the jury.
The judge was like, fine.
Guess that's letting go back. No way they're going to give it to him.
So they had a counter one or some kind of helpful one in there.
They wanted the instructions saying don't include any damages that were not caused by this incident, right?
Yeah.
And so mechanism of injury was the blunt force trauma from the fan blade that we believe exacerbated or aggravated a previously asymptomatic condition, i.e. the herniated disc or some of the tears or arthritis that she had in her shoulder.
So I always ask this question after trial. If you're a defense attorney, how do you attack the verdict on appeal?
It's a good question to me because
Also, if the
they got
appeal is still pending, maybe don't answer that question.
I don't think I think you're still probably waiting for judgment, but I just
we're waiting for judgment. We're waiting for judgment. Here's what I'll say.
do you see anything?
I'm not an appellate lawyer. What I would say is that they got every ruling that they asked for. They got, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than they got every ruling that they asked for. The client had 2 surgeries. So I don't know what you would do on an appeal if I was them. I really don't.
Nice. That's the best case scenario.
I'm sure they will find some way and they'll hire some, whatever. But
Somebody's got to bill the rest of that policy and file.
yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. So be ready.
Good.
And you get called to trial Friday.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you already have the doctor's testimony in the can, or did you have to get those guys
No.
or gals to come to
We had to get both of them to come testify live.
from Louisiana?
Yes, sir. From Lafayette, Louisiana.
How thrilled were they when they got that call?
Not thrilled.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Not
be either.
thrilled. Yeah. And here's the deal. I mean, thankfully they were there. I think it made a big difference. That's another thing. That's another thing. I think they like to see the doctor there testifying. And they were very different. The shoulder surgeon was very dry and like not quote unquote like
He's a doctor.
but our neurosurgeon was different. And so I think they liked them both. I asked the jury afterwards, I said, we liked them both, and they found them both credible.
I love that your orthopedic was was kind of the square, and your neuro was the
Yes.
one that was captivating. Because usually complete opposite.
Correct.
Usually your neuro is like, please do not talk to me. I'm a robot. I only cut on spines.
They asked the neuro about something about the shoulder, just trying to get him to say something. He goes, ma'am, the only time I've seen the inside of a shoulder was at Thanksgiving dinner. And the jury fracked up about
Love that. Love that.
But that's the other thing you learn. And these are human beings.
Yep.
These people in this jury box, they're human beings. They want to laugh. They want to be entertained. Of course, you got to try your case and you got to put on legally sufficient evidence. But man, entertain them.
Yeah, showmanship.
Show them your case. Present your case to them, make it entertaining if you can.
So it's been my understanding, paying pretty close attention to the legislative session, which we're going to talk about more, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, that there's a pretty strong movement for Texas to secede again, and they're calling it Texit. I think there's a chance if they do that Texas Roadhouse gift cards might be our new currency.
Legal tender. I agree. I was thinking about that the other night.
Is there any chance they're going to offer to just settle this case for Texas Roadhouse gift cards?
I hope not.
It's like Bitcoin. I think they're
You're still behind U.S. American dollar.
We'll take the U.S. American.
yes.
All right, it's a risky move.
If y'all want to mediate it post verdict, I'll do it for Texas Roadhouse.
Okay. I thought he was going to say, I'll do it for free. He did not. He did not say that. He did not
He'll
say
do
that.
it for Texas Roadhouse bucks.
Yeah.
Okay. So, trial. I think we've kind of run the course on that. Jacob, that was good. One thing we kind of or Kyle touched on, going to Sugar Land, which was your wife had a big role in that, but we've talked about this separately. I mean, to me, that's the fastest growing county in the state, or maybe the
And most diverse.
yeah. So what do you see? You're out there. What are you seeing? A lot of, and then also along those lines, the courthouse. What you see at the courthouse, the judges, the juries. How's that different than Houston?
I haven't been in the Fort Bend County Courthouse a ton, believe it or not. I've spent more time in Harris County and just different counties, but I know we have great judges down there. From what I hear, I haven't tried a case in Fort Bend County, but I hear that we have good juries, very diverse juries, very smart juries. It's what I can tell you from a community standpoint is we're Lebanese. We see a lot of Arabs. We see a lot of obviously Indian, Pakistani, Asian.
Pakistani, shout out to Agas, by the way. Best food that you can buy that somebody doesn't make in their kitchen.
Donna loves
Fantastic.
Yes,
I love Agas.
we go to I go there with Danny Trevino a lot.
Danny G.
She's so
One of the only golfers that can get in my head.
George Farah, another Lebanese Syrian lawyer like myself, introduced me to Danny, and he introduced me to you, Bill. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, shout out to August. We're always looking for sponsors. Even if it's just in free food for
I was gonna say we will accept the goat chops
for sure,
right?
For sure.
But I see a lot of diversity. I do. I see. Being a Lebanese person myself, I actually like that. I mean, I see some people from similar background and different Asian background, things like that. So I like it.
Yes. Favorite Lebanese person? Go.
Jacob Karam, easy.
Johnny Football. Sorry.
Jamie Farr, Toledo, Ohio.
Jesus.
I thought you were gonna say Danny Thomas from.
Oh, he's also very good.
Yeah.
But I'm going Klinger from MASH in a dress, from my hometown, Toledo, Ohio. I mean, you can't go wrong with Jimmy.
I thought you were going to say Danny Thomas or Doug Flutie
Oh, I forgot about Doug.
or Shakira. That's one of mine.
Lebanese. She started dating Lewis Hamilton, F1. Yeah, I'm cultured. No big deal.
Salma Hayek.
What?
I'm starting to wish I was Lebanese.
Yeah, first of all, I've been dating the wrong demographic. Now that I know that Selma's there, but I'll mix it up. I'm gonna need your help, by the way. I know. Yeah, I just got one wedding and I'm in. You know, like
Bro's getting married next month.
we're going. We should record there.
I mean, we really should. We're getting helmet cams.
Yep.
And I think we can put rented tuxedos. I mean, Peter probably has one. He probably owns one.
It's custom.
Well, by definition,
He doesn't-
rented, I don't own it.
Does this man? Does this man look like he buys anything off the rack?
My guess is it's like Sid Mashburn. Like it's gonna be fancy. It's gonna be fancy.
Or seersucker, depending on the temperature.
Whoa.
Where is it? Where's the wedding?
Here in Houston.
Good.
Okay. Here in Houston. He's marrying a beautiful Lebanese girl.
Good.
Who my wife has known her whole life.
Wow.
Oh, no pressure on him.
Yeah. Well, we're thrilled, obviously. So it's good. We're excited.
And so 2 children, how old?
4 and 3. Little boy named James and a little girl named Layla, and we have a little boy on the way.
How old?
Excellent.
4 and 3.
Oh, perfect age.
Yeah.
Those are the fun. That's when they're like, yeah, dad.
Yeah.
Because before that, you're just cleaning up. Yeah, you're just cleanup crew.
So you and your wife are here, so they're at home by themselves watching TV. Or
Yeah. We have a nanny.
They're at home by themselves watching The Simpsons, eating hard candy,
Smoking cigarettes.
Yep. Selling cigarettes, probably selling Lucy's.
Yep.
Practicing karate, doing their push-ups.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Jacob, I can't thank you enough for coming out, man. This is really delightful.
Awesome.
I know that you've got to go, and we thank your lovely wife for letting us borrow him for a couple of hours, and hope you guys have a wonderful dinner.
I want to thank you guys and tell y'all I admire y'all and appreciate this. This is so entertaining. Thank y'all for what y'all do for the lawyers, getting to listen to these stories and these different topics. You guys are doing a really great thing, and I appreciate it. So
It's mostly Pete.
Pete and the guests do most of the work.
Thank you so much for putting this all together and organizing all this. I really appreciate it. I'm a big fan. Thank you.
Good, Jacob. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and thanks to our coordinator DJ Josh back there. And with that, with
Best
this
baby
week's
seal in the planet.
there we go. With this week's edition of Dirty Verdict, we will sign off. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also visit our website at www.dirtyverdict.com. If you are interested in coming on as a guest or have a story idea, please email us at story@dirtyverdict.com.